Welcome back to the Tech Perspective podcast presented by Flatiron School. The show featuring perspectives from people all across the tech industry landscape. My name is Jelani. I am your host, and I am joined here by Kedasha Kerr. Kedasha, please introduce yourself. Tell me about yourself. Tell me about the what you're doing right now in tech, and then we'll jump into your background.
Awesome. Hey, everybody. My name is Kedasha, and I currently work as a developer advocate in the cloud security space at a startup.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm a software engineer by training, and I also enjoy sharing content for new and aspiring developers, specifically on Instagram and most recently on TikTok.
Nice.
So you can find me all across the web.
Did you just get started on TikTok?
I did.
I haven't gotten there yet. I heard it's quite a learning curve. Is that true?
It's different. So like on Instagram, you have to be like prim and proper and polished. On TikTok, it's just like a free for all. And it's just like, it's overwhelming is what it is.
A lot of that like robotic Siri sounded woman talking. Like she's where you have like the text up and it's like, this is me when I go to the bathroom. Like it's just like a lot of that stuff. Cool. You have a very interesting story, as I was telling you off camera, that I did a lot of research into. You went 100 weeks back into your Instagram, and like I was investigating you, but you have a very interesting past. So I want to start with the fact that you actually started out as a social worker.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. in the nonprofit space, right? And I'm curious as to what drew you to social work.
Oh, that's such a good question. So ever since I was little, I've always loved people. People is kind of my thing. I love listening to their stories, helping them with their problems, and figuring out how to help them get to their best selves. And that's what drew me to social work. And honestly, I wanted to be a psychologist, but when I was in college, I learned that you can get like an MSW degree and have your own private practice, like be a therapist. And I was just like, okay, that's going to cost less and it's less time. Let's just go to social work. But when I started working as a social worker, I realized that everything that I wanted to do, that's just not how it worked at all.
Yeah. Yeah. I originally started out in nonprofit as well, like straight out of college. And there's like, you go in with all the best of intentions. And I think that's like a common thing. You go in with the best of intentions, but that nonprofit game, I honestly, and this is no disrespect to anybody working in nonprofit that is listening right now. And if you work in nonprofit, you probably understand what I'm about to say, which is nonprofit operates like a for-profit. They operate in a similar fashion. There's some differences, obviously, from a legal perspective, but people go in with the best of intentions, and sometimes it just you get a little bit. It can be demotivating at times.
Absolutely, you get burnt out really fast. And the emotional work that we put into nonprofit and government jobs, it's a lot. It really takes a toll on you. And then you wake up and you realize, why am I working so hard? Can I even eat?
Yeah.
And it's just like, I can't.
Yeah.
So you got to figure it out.
Yeah. I realized that I was in nonprofit for 3 years in fundraising, marketing, that kind of stuff, development work. And we used to work a lot with kids. And I wrote a blog about this, that it was a little disheartening sometimes because you give in all this energy, you put in a lot of work. And sometimes it feels like, especially with kids, especially kids that look like me.
Yes.
You start feeling like you're almost putting a Band-Aid on a bullet wound at times. And for me, it just wasn't, I couldn't really stick around, and ironically went into tech in a different fashion after, from the marketing perspective. But what then, as you're doing social work and feeling like maybe this isn't the right place for you, like what sparks that interest for you to take up programming in particular?
I was tired of being broke. I, I was, that is the truth. And that is
Say
the truth. I
say it
was
louder for the people in the
literally,
back.
I was literally tired of being broke, and I had to figure out how to not be broke anymore. And so one day I was scrolling Instagram,
Hey.
and this finance blogger I followed, she posted something on her stories like, I taught myself how to code in 9 months and now I earn six figures as a software engineer. And I was like, what? You taught yourself how to do what? First of all, what is code? What is six figures? And what is a software engineer? Because I had no idea what any of those things were.
Yeah.
So, of course, I swiped up and I read the blog post, and literally I went down the rabbit hole from like teaching myself how to code to going to a boot camp to getting a job from that one blog post. And so that's kind of how I started to get into programming. But even before I was exposed to that random story, I was really trying to figure out, okay, how am I going to increase my income? Because when I tell you I was poor, okay? I couldn't even get the R. Like I was struggling. And I'm like, I am educated. I work hard. Like, what is it so? Why are you laughing?
You said you couldn't get the R in 4?
I couldn't afford it.
Oh my God, that's fantastic.
I'm not even kidding. I couldn't even get to hard, but like I was really trying like different things. So like I was trying to do things on Etsy, like selling things. Yeah. I was trying to figure out like how to start a blog and monetize it. I was trying to figure out a way to increase my income on the side. I used to do like Shipped, the grocery delivery stuff.
Oh, okay.
And all these things I was trying. And then I came across a blog post and I was just like, okay, let's go. And so I just fell down the rabbit hole. I didn't even know there were other roles in tech. I was so focused on, okay, she did it in 9 months. Okay, let's go.
Right.
And that was it.
So you see the blog post, you go down the rabbit hole, right? Is it because software engineering was like the first sort of role in tech that you were exposed to that you kind of went down that road, or was there something, because there's a bunch of different lanes in tech, like why software engineering in particular?
Because of the blog post. So when I saw the blog post and then I started, you start Googling. So I Googled like software engineering salaries, like entry-level salaries. And I was dazzled. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Because at the time, I remember like a few of my supervisors, that's what they were earning with like 10, 20 years of experience. And I'm like, wow, I can be earning that with like zero experience in this field. Let's go.
Yeah.
And so I didn't even consider any other roles. Because as a social worker, you could be a technical program manager, you could be a project, you could do so many things. But I was just dazzled by the code with the money.
Nice.
Because I was tired of being broke.
I respect it. I love the honesty. And I actually think more people should say that was one of the reasons why I moved into this space. I think people need to be honest about that. And I appreciate the honesty. I'm still thinking about you not affording the R and poor. That is hilarious. So you decide this is where I want to go now, and you decide to go to a boot camp. Why'd you decide a boot camp? Because of the blog post still?
No, so it wasn't because of the blog post. So the blog post led me to Free Code Camp. And so, I started doing a little HTML, a little CSS, seeing the thing wiggle on the screen. I was just like, ooh, this is great. And once I realized that, wow, okay, I like this. Let me see if I can make a career out of it. I did like research into the requirements of the requirements for like a job as a software engineer. And so I made a list of all the tools that I needed to learn, the technology and all the things. And so I was like, okay, let's go. Let's start studying.
Yeah.
So January, February, I learned HTML, CSS, built some projects. And then like at the end of February, I got to JavaScript and I was like, what is this?
Hard left turn.
I was like, what is this craziness? And I was really struggling to learn JavaScript on my own. And I felt like I just needed a more structured and supportive environment in order to get to the goal of getting a job as a software engineer. And that's kind of how I ended up going to a boot camp. And it's funny because Flatiron School was one of my top choices at the time. And I was accepted, but they needed I think it was like a $2,000 or a $3,000 deposit. And I was like, okay, I guess, I guess I can't go to Flatiron School.
And we would have been proud to have you.
Of course.
Yeah. So can you just for a second explain to some folks why JavaScript can be such a hard left turn once you're getting to learn that?
Yeah, I think it's because with HTML and CSS, you're learning how to interact with the web and you're able to, let me just say it in layman's term, HTML and CSS, it's easy to pick up, right? It's not programming. You're not telling the computer to do anything programmatically. And so when you get to JavaScript, you have to think logically, you have to think methodically, and you have to really understand what these for loops are doing. And what is the purpose of doing I and the O and the, the increments. And so because JavaScript is such a different way of thinking, you're literally learning how to speak to a computer. It can be a bit jarring. Yeah. And if you've never coded before and just jumping into something like JavaScript, it's ridiculous. And then JavaScript doesn't provide very good error messaging. And so you can't really pinpoint exactly where the error is. And so if you go into a language like Ruby is a lot less painful to pick up.
Yeah.
And so that's why I like Flatiron School's approach of teaching Ruby first and then getting into the other stuff with programming, because once you learn the core fundamentals of programming, you can pick up other language pretty well.
That's exactly the approach. Yeah, that's exactly the approach. JavaScript, they used to be when we used to be in Brooklyn, there were the desks where each mod of the cohort would be of essentially when you come into the building, there's mod 1 here, mod 2 here, mod 3 here, mod 4 here, mod 5 here back in Brooklyn, right? And mods 1 and 2, they were learning Ruby, and you could see a lot of smiles, a lot of talking. Once you got to the third mod where they were learning JavaScript, you could hear a pin drop. Everyone is heads down, studying, don't talk to me, don't look in my direction, because I have 3 weeks to pick this up. So
correct.
Yeah, I remember very distinctly some people having some trouble picking up JavaScript, but you're right.
It's tough. And I think too, because with the JavaScript, there are so many different ways to do one thing. So there isn't really a set pattern for a lot of things that you can do with the language. And that makes it even more difficult for me anyway. Whereas with a language like Python or Ruby, it's just here's how you do it. This is how you do it. Just keep moving forward. Yeah. JavaScript's nah, you got options. It's just I don't want options. Just tell me what to do.
The point about the error messages is real though.
Yes,
I'm most familiar with Python, and Python error messages are incredibly clear. They listen. Yes. This is where the problem is. Go fix right here is where you go fix it. But I never seen JavaScript error messages. So I'll take your word that it's not very good.
It's a free for all.
Yeah, I actually had somebody. I don't know how familiar you are with Rust, but one of our partners, he said that in his opinion, Rust would take over JavaScript at some point, which I'm sure will cause a war of comments once we drop the episode, but we'll see. So go through the boot camp. How are you feeling when you leave the boot camp? Are you feeling job ready?
So I didn't leave the boot camp. I was hired early because, like I said, I was tired of being broke. And even in the boot camp, I was just okay, I'm ready to work because there is no money coming in. Okay. So what happened in 2019, that's when I went to the boot camp. I received a scholarship to go to the Grace Hopper conference. And so because I got that scholarship and then I learned that Grace Hopper, they have thousands of employers hunting for early talent and eager talent in software engineering, I made it my goal to be ready for the conference in October 2019. So I started the bootcamp around March 2019. And so I made it my goal to be fully ready for the conference in October so I can get a job and leave this bootcamp because I was tired of it. I was tired of crying. I cried every day learning JavaScript.
My.
Not even kidding. And so again, as I do, I was very strategic with my learning.
Yeah.
So as soon as I was finished with the front end portion of things and we were getting into the back end design, I started planning out a project, like a full stack project that I would build. And so I recruited a designer that was also at the bootcamp to do like a, like a nice little thing for me.
Yeah.
What do they call it in UX?
Framework?
Prototype. Like a design. Like they designed the app for me.
Okay.
From front to back. And that was also a great project for them because they could have that on their resume. And so once they were finished with the specs, I built out the front end of the application. And then once I was finished with the back end around like August, mid-September, I built out the back end of my application. And then the full stack project was finished. Got my resumes updated, everything done, did my hair, got some dresses, and went to the conference in October. And I lived in the career hall. I couldn't tell you what was going on at the conference because I had no fun. I was in the career hall every single day, and I got a job offer. I was hired at the conference, and so I didn't finish the boot camp technically until I think last year. I went back to finish the CS portion. But yeah, so I don't know if I was job ready, but in my head, I was job ready because I needed money.
That's funny. You got the R in port. You got it now. We're able to get it. So so explain to me how that works though. Like, you go to the conference, right? So you don't have to. What's the interview process for when you're at a conference and they hire you? Because I'm assuming they hired you like once they met you at the conference, right?
Correct. So the interviewing process at the conferences, it's expedited. So the typical process is like you would submit your resume like way in advance, especially for a large conference like Grace Hopper. But I didn't know this. And so like when you submit your resume way in advance, interviews are scheduled before the conference even begins. So like you show up, you go up to your interviews and, they assess whether or not they want to hire you, get a job offer. And so I didn't know any of this insider information. And so I had like resumes in hand, just wanting to talk to people and wanting to interview. And how it works is that you interview. So like you would meet with like a recruiting person just to assess whether or not you would be a good fit for the role. And then they pass you on to somebody else and it's more talking. And then they pass you on to maybe like a director or whoever is in charge of hiring for the roles. So they can do like a deep dive into your technical skills. Some companies still do like code challenges. So like the first step would be a code challenge on site that you would just fill out for like 20, you get like 20, 30, 40 minutes to do it. I failed those. I failed those miserably. I'm not very good at lead coding.
Yeah.
But for the company so it's like the same process, but it's not like 5 interviews. It's a lot more expedited. And so the company may interview you today and give you a job offer tomorrow, or the company may interview you today and give you a job offer on the spot or later on that day. So I like to tell people to go to conferences because it's great. Companies are hungry, especially for diverse talent. And if that's a way to get in easier, then go ahead and do it. But the company that I interviewed with, it was very unconventional.
Yeah.
So I didn't even realize I was in an interview. I was talking to the director of engineering for like an hour and a half about my experience, my project that I worked on, the coding stack, everything that I learned over the past year. And like 20 minutes after that conversation ended, I got an email that they wanted to hire me.
Wow.
And I literally cried because, I finally got the R in port.
Yeah.
I literally cried because I was just like, whoa.
Wow. That's incredible. That's pretty incredible. So the fact that that you didn't have to do a code challenge, I'm curious about this. So I'm on LinkedIn all the time. And one thing that I have a bunch of, in my network, it's a lot of people in tech because I've worked at Flatiron School for now almost 3 years. Well, when this drops, it'll be after 3 years.
Yes.
How do you feel about code challenges? Because like from the employer perspective, they're like, we want you to do the code challenge and it's the same thing they do in every industry where they give you a homework assignment or whatever it is, to I guess prove that you can do the job. But personally, I never like that, because the problems that they give you are problems that they're trying to solve, and then they take 7 or 8 of the best ones, and then distill it into one solution, and then go off and do everything that a bunch of people that just gave them ideas for.
Isn't that just theft?
Exactly.
Aren't you describing theft?
I am describing theft, right? So as someone in this industry, I've heard a lot of people in this industry say that they are vehemently against take-home projects and code challenges. How do you feel about it?
I think lead code style code challenges like the HackerRanks and lead code and all those other ones, I don't think it makes sense, honestly, because the problems that we're solving with lead code and HackerRanks, that's not problems that we're doing every day as an engineer. So like if you can memorize how to solve lead code 32 and you ended up getting lead code 32 in your interview process, that's just memory. And that's not actually demonstrating that you know how to solve business problems with code.
Right.
That's just showing that you're great at memorization. I think with code challenges, I would, if I needed to do one, I would prefer like a project-based code challenge. So for example, I worked as a front-end developer for 2 years. And so when I got promoted at my last job, my challenge was to build a component following certain specs, right? And so I did that. And I think that is a fair ask because that's what you're going to do on the job. I think if code challenges are going to take more than, let's say, like 2 hours, even up to like 8 hours, and if it specifically solves a problem that the business is experiencing in this moment, they need to pay people. Because that is intellectual property that you're just stealing and time that people don't have. You can't just steal people's work. That's just, I don't like code challenges. I don't like it.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's funny when you said this is theft. The first thing I thought in my mind is like, this is America. Like,
Capitalism, indeed.
I mean, the whole place is stolen. So
that's true. That is true.
So something that I think is interesting for career changers is 1 minute you go from learning this thing that there's no, like if you break the code or something like that, there's no direct financial issue, right? There's like, but now you go to an actual company now, and now you're getting paid to do this. How was that transition for you?
It was very strange. So I remember learning really fast that coding for learning and coding for fun and then coding for work, 3 different things. So like coding for fun, you just do whatever you want. You're in charge. Coding for work, there are processes, there are limitations, there are business goals and needs that you really need to solve using code. And it can be repetitive. It can be very repetitive because a lot of the work is maintaining the current code base and updating a few front-end development. That's what I did. So I can only speak from that regard. So like with the work that I did, it's just like maintaining the code base, of course, making sure that our packages and repositories were always updated so to prevent security vulnerabilities. It was making small UI changes with new features that the business wanted us to push out to production. It was doing maybe like building out a few new components in order to make a feature more flexible or enjoyable for the customers. So like we're doing coding for work. It's a strange experience because it's not as rushed as school, and it's not as I don't know. It's a strange, I don't know how else to explain it.
Yeah.
It's a strange experience to wrap your mind around that you're writing code and you're getting paid for it. And this code is going to support customers, like real people in the end.
Yeah.
And so the level of like personal responsibility, I know for me, like I felt so personally responsible for the code I was writing because I'm just like, wow, what if this breaks production? Oh my God. What if there's like a security flaw and I didn't know?
Yeah.
It's a lot more responsibility. But if you have a good company, you will be well supported.
Right. How big was the team you were working on?
The team I was working on, it was eight. It wasn't. It was a good size,
Yeah.
and I don't remember. Maybe it was like 5 or 6 of us, and a project manager, and we also had access to UX designers. But I was a junior on the team, and I embraced that junior title. If I didn't know something, I asked. If I was confused, I said it. And because my team was very supportive, I was able to grow pretty fast. But yeah, it wasn't a bad team, and it was a pretty big company. I didn't even realize the company was so massive until I got there.
Something I'm interested in also with career changers is transferable skills, right? Because I hear you talk now and it's fluid. Like the fact that you love talking to people because of the work you did in nonprofit. How has some of those transferable skills from social work helped you in this new career?
Helped me in every single way. So, like I said earlier, my best skill or like my little zone of genius is people. And one of the biggest lessons I learned working as a first year developer was software engineering is all about communication. Without communication, nothing works without communication.
Right.
You have to be able to communicate why you coded something the way you did. What value does this piece of code add to the platform? You have to be able to communicate to stakeholders or people that, are looking out for whatever you're building. You have to be able to communicate cross-functionally across teams and roles like product managers, UX researchers, UX designers, security engineers. So it's all about communication. And because I worked as a social worker, I really have a knack for communicating cross-functionally because I can be talking to a client today and then tomorrow I can be talking to a judge, I can be talking to a police officer, I can be talking to a teacher, I can be talking to a parent. And so because I had that experience of communicating with people from all different backgrounds and professions, I was able to really sharpen my communication skills. And so that's one of my strongest skills. And I think that's why I've been able to be so successful in my tech career so far, because knowing how to communicate, there's nothing like it. There's nothing like clear communication.
Absolutely.
It will take you very far. Like my mom would say in Jamaica, manas carry you through the world, which means like if you have a good attitude and if you speak well and treat people with respect, you will go very far in the world.
Absolutely. And you carry those skills over to your Instagram platform where
man.
where you have grown this thing organically. I got to see it like going back in time and like going through I promise you, I went through each and every single post, looking through those comments, super deep dive. And it is impressive to see what you've done. I told you off camera, like the consistency of the value that you provide over time is truly, truly impressive. And it wasn't that long, right? Like how long have you been building this platform?
Since last January.
Right. And now it's only been a year and you're up to how many followers now?
I think I just crossed a bit over 12,000.
I mean, that's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah. What was your goal going into creating this platform? Like, what did you intend this to be?
So going into creating content, so at the end of my first year as a developer, one of the feedback across the board from every single person on my team was, Kedasha is awesome. She has great ideas, and I wish she would speak up more. And so I was always scared of talking in meetings and communicating my ideas because I felt like I wasn't technical enough. So one of my goals with Instagram, my primary goal was to improve or increase improve yeah improve improve how I spoke about technical topics. And so that's why like the very first post was like series on web development. Yeah, it was great for my audience or for the people that discovered my page, but it was mostly about me learning how to communicate those topics to people who knew nothing about it. And I will tell you that goal, wow, I've become so great at learning in public and breaking down complex topics for people to understand because of that Instagram page. And so as time progressed, I realized, okay, you have developers who create content for companies and who communicate technical topics to other developers on behalf of companies. And these developers are called developer advocates. And I was just like, okay, I'm going to intentionally grow this audience of developers so I can get a job as a developer advocate.
Wow.
I was planning on getting that job maybe like 2 years down the line. I didn't expect it to come so fast.
Nice.
Because I honestly didn't expect to grow so fast. But yeah, so those were the two reasons that why I started the content on Instagram.
I mean, that's pretty dope that I didn't know you intentionally wanted the role of developer advocate. That's pretty dope. And now look at you, developer
It's on my vision board.
Oh, nice. Nice. One of the things that I was really impressed about your platform is the community that you've built. And it feels really, really intentional. Like the way that you respond to comments, you're answering questions, you're giving yourself, you're being vulnerable in certain spots in the platform. And I recently went into a whole deep dive on NFTs, and I realized that is a 100% community-backed economy, right? And it like a light bulb went off in my head, and I thought about like the organizations that are doing really, really well. Most of them, like, community matters so much. Like, you even think of like the biggest company in the world, Apple, right? There's community in Apple. There's 100% community in Apple.
Absolutely.
And there's community in Android, right? The Android versus Apple community, Team Apple.
I'm an Android.
Oh, you look at that. Look at that. I'm Team Apple, you're Team Android. You know what I mean? But like, community matters so much. So correct. I'm curious to, like, as you were developing this community, like, did a sense of responsibility start to kick in because now you're someone that people are listening to?
Absolutely. I think you helped me figure it out just now why I'm so tired. And I think it's because, no, I am. I think it's because I genuinely want to help. And because tech has completely transformed my life, I know there are people out there just like me, struggling and working hard. And I want them to also transform their lives through tech. There are so many roles and there's so much money to be had. There's so much well-being benefits. Like, you know, tech is the move, you know? Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of why I like to be vulnerable, and I like to be transparent, and I like to thoughtfully respond to comments, because I want people to see me as a resource and as a person that they can come to with their questions willingly, and I will answer it as best as possible. And if I don't know something, I will tell them who to go to, or I will find the resource. I'm very resourceful, and that comes from my social work days.
Yeah.
I will find it for them. And so I think I also cultivate a positive environment. So if somebody comes to me with something negative, I block and delete. I don't respond. I don't engage. If it's coming at me, I do not want that energy into my space or on the platform that I am in charge of. And so, yeah, there is a lot of intentionality behind how I communicate content and how I showcase technical topics, because it's boring. You know, there's nothing exciting.
Yeah.
There's nothing exciting about JavaScript or Python or cloud computing or AWS. They're all boring topics, but it's just the way you communicate and relay the information, or relate the information to people's current state of being, which will get them interested in it.
Right. 100%. And I just thought of something as you were saying that the protecting of the community is really important, because there's a particular I mean, it's a brand, right? It's a specific identity that your community has, and you want to protect and maintain that. One thing that I saw it jumped out at me because I think like there are other tech influencers that might go about doing this a different way, but the thing that I saw super consistent with your content is if you're in the picture, if you're the main subject of the image of the content, and you're speaking about something, you're always smiling. It always seems like you're in a good mood. It always seems like you're happy, right? And I always say like the camera can feel that energy, and people can feel it on the other side of that of the screen. And as I saw that, I also saw you sort of tackle mental health in a real approachable way, like talking about the negative effects of like hustler culture, or like,
I'm so tired of it.
or like even simple stuff like, do you remember to smile today? Did you get up from your computer? Did you, like, really giving people the encouragement to, obviously, if you have ambition and you want to go after something, you're clearly someone who's ambitious and has gone after your dreams, but really mixing in a healthy balance of take care of you and it's okay.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And I think that also comes from me liking people and social work as well. Like, I haven't been feeling my best lately. And so I decided to take a break from creating content, because if I am not feeling my best, like you said, that's going to come across to my audience, and it's not going to be a good look, right?
Right.
And also, it's important to prioritize rest and sleeping and doing nothing. Just lie down on your couch, stare at the ceiling. That is amazing.
Yeah.
It feels so good to do sometime.
Yeah.
Mindlessly scrolling TikTok and laughing your butt off. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And it feels good to do sometimes. I think like hustle culture and capitalism at large has taught us that everything needs to be monetized, everything needs to be done fast, and everything needs to be done like 2 years ago. And it's just like, slow down.
Right.
I just want to eat. I just want to be able to eat today, tomorrow, and the next day. And that's enough for me.
Life outside of work. Like,
yes.
You are not
I
your
recently
job.
realized I have no hobbies. I've been so focused over the past like 2-3 years on making this transition, on not being poor anymore,
Yeah.
that I've completely lost who I am outside of work. Like, work has consumed me. I literally had this realization over this past weekend, and I'm just like, nope, gotta change it. Gotta change it. Gotta find something to do to not be a constant work wheel. Because even Instagram has become somewhat of a job for me right now. And it's just like, oh, I'm tired.
Right. Normalize taking breaks.
Yes.
Normalize taking a break. And your community will probably appreciate that, because you're practicing what you preach. If you said, I'm going to go on a hiatus for a few weeks.
Yeah. I did like a story today, and so many DMs like, yeah, girl, take the time you need. That's okay. Blah, blah, blah. We'll be here. Da, da, da. And I'm just like, that's great. I mean, if people don't want to stay and they want to leave, that's cool too.
Right.
I'm not doing it for the numbers. I share content because I enjoy it. And if one person can discover my content and change their lives because of it,
that's good. That's
good.
That's all you need. So speaking of your platform, what role did the platform play in helping you get this new role? Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
of developer advocate.
It played the biggest role, and I didn't think that it would be so impactful. So when I updated my resume and I put Instagram on my resume, like content creator, I think I put like technology advocate, some fancy smanchy something I Googled. And then I put like metrics and my reach and all the things that developer advocate managers are looking for. And I was testing the waters. And before I even tested the waters, when I updated my LinkedIn, recruiters were reaching out to me about developer advocacy roles. And the salary that they were saying these roles had, I was like, you say what?
Yeah.
And so I was testing the waters one Friday. I was just like, you know what? Let me just send this resume to like these jobs on LinkedIn that had quick apply or easy apply, whatever that thing is.
Yeah.
And literally I had 7 interview invites in like 3 days.
Wow. Wow.
And so when that's what I said.
Yeah.
And so when I set up the interviews, everybody was talking about my Instagram and the work I was doing there, the platform they wanted to learn more, how I did it, why I did it, all that thing. They weren't very interested in my software engineering role that I was doing for 2 years. Of course, that's important because a developer advocate needs to know how to code and how to, do all those wonderful things.
Right.
But they were more so interested in the community that I built. And I was like, whoa, social media is really about to get me a job, and like a high paying job.
Yeah.
And it was very surprising. Like I was able to pick and choose who I wanted to speak to, say no to a lot of companies that didn't align with my values, and ended up finding a really, really great team.
Wow.
That I'm so happy to be a part of. So yeah, it helped me 100%. And I'm so happy that I decided to build the community. Because firstly, I love creating content, and secondly, I love talking to developers. So like, why not put it together?
That's super dope. Why I'm curious as to why developer advocacy is such a big market. Like, why is it that companies are so interested in this?
That's true. I've noticed that a lot more companies are hiring developer advocates. And I think it's because if a company has an API or if a company has a product that specifically caters to developers, they need a way to market it to developers without marketing it to developers, because developers hate marketing. And so if you have a team that's dedicated to building a community, responding to developer questions, catering to developer needs, and, creating demos and blog posts and everything about the developer in order for them to be successful and efficient with the product that the company has, developers are going to want to flock to it. If you can demonstrate the value that this adds to a developer's life and their daily being, they're going to flock to it and they're going to use it. And so that's why a lot of companies, especially companies that have API-focused products, they want developer advocates to evangelize their product and teach developers how to use it.
That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. I had not heard of this title until I did my research on you. So
It's awesome. Like, if anyone is a developer and they enjoy content creation, especially like blog posts, like if you write technical blog posts, look into developer advocacy. There are a lot of roles. And I also noticed they're not as extremely competitive as software engineering roles.
got you, because not everybody can do the content.
Correct.
Right. Cool. I mean, I think when this drops, there's going to be a lot of people interested in that for sure. My last question as we wrap here, because this has been fantastic. This has been fun. I learned a lot just talking to you here. Last question is a question I ask everybody, which is, what is a quote that you personally live by?
What is a quote that I personally live by? The first thing that pops in my head is "Do it scared." And another one I live by is "I can do hard things." And so "I can do hard things" is the one that has brought me to where I am right now in terms of my career, because I didn't allow my imposter syndrome and that stupid voice to cause me to like sabotage my growth or to be scared to say something stupid. Instead of allowing it to take over, I just leaned into it and embraced the fear and did it anyway. Because whether or not you do it or you don't, there's going to be doubt anyway. So why not have a reason for the doubt, right? Do it and have the doubt and just get to the other side. But "You can do hard things" is my favorite.
I love it. Everybody doing tech should have that somewhere on their vision board, on their walls, on their computer, somewhere. I can do hard things.
I literally had it as sticky. I can do hard things.
Oh, man, this has been really fun. Kedasha, thank you so much for joining us. If people wanted to connect with you, you got to shout out your Instagram and your website as well.
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok at It's That Lady Dev, and my blog is itsthatlady.dev. Everything is branded the same.
Yeah, that's cohesive branding.
Cohesive.
Cohesive. Nice. Thank you so much. If you enjoyed this, please give us a like, subscribe, download. Tell your mom, tell your dad, tell everybody about the podcast, please. Thank you for making it to the end. And with that, we're out.